Hello, flower friends. This is Jen, and we often talk about the million things that you should be doing. And I want to talk about the things that you shouldn't. Because after all of this time of being a florist and with the volume of weddings, I have really learned what not to do, or I have put boundaries in place that really solidify things that don't feel good to me, things that don't financially make sense to me after doing a lot of analysis. And that learning literally takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I wanted to share those with you because as a florist, there are things, we all used to do. But because I thought I had to do it, I thought it made me a better florist, a nicer person, more accommodating, more bookable. But really, a lot of those things were just costing me money, peace, creativity, and joy. So, the things I no longer do in my floral business that you should consider no longer doing as well. So, the first one to start out with is I actually got a text today, you guys, that this is actually two different things that I don't do. The person was a cultural decorator, and they texted me asking me to if I had silk flowers for a wedding this weekend. You guys, it's Tuesday, and this wedding is on Saturday. And I was like, "Are you shitting me? What?" So I ask, of course, some investigation questions because it's silk flowers and, I do have them and they are all put together. But it was just like this panic, and I've had this happens a lot with daily deliveries when I've had people panicking and calling me, and it literally just because they waited and they didn't figure out or they changed their mind or they're just a dumbass is really not my problem. And I think the famous saying is like, "Your emergency doesn't mean that it's my emergency." So you can be helpful without taking on their panic because it's not your panic. The next one that relates to this is that I no longer do something that is under my minimum that I know is going to be labor intensive. So they, of course, with this magical wedding that they need silk flowers, also have a $900 budget. And you might be saying to yourself, oh my God, a $900 budget just to bring some silk flowers? That might be great for some people, but for me to get someone or myself to drive up to Woodbury, Minnesota, which is going to be probably a 50-minute drive, then go and get all the shit, my minimum for a setup and tear down like that is going to be 250 just to deliver it. To do I mean, their items were relatively simple, but my time is worth money. And especially with cultural weddings, it's never that easy. They always go over time. There's always some variable that throws time off kilter. So you might think it's an hour. Well, it's actually several hours probably because it's going to be a bunch of dinking around and somebody wanting to move it a quarter inch. So I was like, I'm sorry, but over half of that budget will be ate up just by taxes and then set up and pick up. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to help. And that to me, it is a boundary. $900 and plus it's on a day that I already have a wedding. The wedding is in Wisconsin, so it's already an hour away. And then on top of it, my alpacas and my sheep are getting sheared that morning. So, like, I would have had to, like, hustle and figure something out, and that just also doesn't seem very fun to me. So, you can have whatever boundary you want because you're the CEO in your business. So, that leads into my third option that I no longer do is I no longer undercharge to get the job. I have had people go, "Well, if you can match or whatever, I like you better, and so I'd rather book with you." But for one, that feels like shit, you guys. And for two, I'm more expensive for a reason. And the reason probably is because I have more experience. We are not comparing apples and apples. We have apples and kumquats being compared. And my peace and integrity is worth more than that. So I don't want to undercharge just to get a job any longer, and neither should you because you are worth money. Your craft is worth money. All right. Number 4. I no longer do super rustic barn weddings because they just don't align with me. Not every wedding is for you. And it can be not only a wedding, it could be a situation, it could be a circumstance, it could be like a specific venue either, like doesn't make you feel good because it was haunted or whatever. I don't care. If it does not fit your brand, your creativity, or your level of work you want to be known for, it is okay to say no, thank you, and not feel bad about it. I do not want to have anything come my way that the person thinks they're crafty by using mason jars as their centerpieces and then rips out the word baby's breath. I'm just like, I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. All right, number 5. I no longer stay quiet when it comes to a bad idea. If you know something is horrible, because sometimes some things are just horrible when they come up, I say something. I'm like, you know what? From my experience, I feel this. Or from my experience, like, I really feel like that flower would be a difficult choice. You can promise a look or whatever, but on your own terms. Because sometimes I've also had to say no to like a mechanic. I've had to say no to a timeline. I've had to say no to some crazy shit that a wedding planner comes up with or a setup that is like not going to work with the circumstances. They are hiring you as an expert, not a silent partner. All right. Number 6, I no longer promise specific blooms. You can promise a look, a feel, a texture, fluffy, whatever, a palette, a style, but you can't promise Mother Nature. This is a hard pass for me if I have somebody being an absolute crazy person about specific flowers. And the reason why is because, like, I don't know if a hurricane is going to shut the ports of Miami down and I can't get flowers into the country, which has happened to me, you guys. Like, you don't want that pressure. So I promise colors, vibe, texture, but like you want fluffy. Fluffy comes in what a million different things. Fluffy can come in ranunculus, fluffy can come in peonies, fluffy can come in roses, fluffy can be very universal. So, like, depending on their textures, I want to make sure that we're not in love with amnesia roses because of the amnesia rose debacle of, I think it was 2018. No longer available for that. And I have verbiage in my contract. And if somebody presses me on the matter, I'm very, I have it kind of rehearsed on why. So I'll say to him, you know what? I totally understand wanting specific flowers. And you know what? I do my best to honor those choices, but I can't guarantee them. And here's why. I can't control Mother Nature. I can't control customs. I can't control the plane that they're coming here on and they missed it. I can't control a torrential downpour in Ecuador and all the roses stop growing. There are so many things out of my control that it would be a disservice for you And I don't like to disappoint customers after the fact for me to make said promises. If they're not rational and understand that, then they're not your client and they can deal with some other type A crazy person as a florist that will make those promises because I just won't. And I won't tell them that like I'm putting my give up panties on and I'm not going to even try, but I'm not going to promise it. I do have ways to help up my chances by ordering from 2 to 3 different wholesalers that same flower to ensure if it's really special, I try really hard and I will share that with them, but I can't promise. I can't control Mother Nature. Another thing that I no longer promise is exact delivery timeframes. I need a delivery window. That helps me in case I have additional weddings or events or sheep shearings. That helps me make sure that I can get all that shit done. And when I am held to an exact time, that makes it very inflexible to work with anything else, creates unnecessary stress and unrealistic expectations. Just because your church is a complete a-hole and will not let you in before an hour before your ceremony doesn't mean that I can be there at that exact time to rush everything in. So I, of course, will try to, but I'm not going to guarantee it, and it represents that in my contract. All right, the next one is I no longer say yes to every inquiry. In the Floral CEO mastermind, somebody had put in there like an inquiry that just like the person sounded crazy. And we were all like, you're booked, because that person just sounds like way too much. So I am just not available for somebody who feels crazy. I'm not available if the couple doesn't seem aligned, and not every event deserves a place in your calendar. All right, next thing. I no longer subscribe to things just because this is how florists do it. Maybe this means that, you have a different process. You maybe have different pricing. You maybe your work hours because maybe you're momming it and you have to wait till dad gets home to be able to get a chance to breathe and run your business. Your business model can be different, and that is completely okay. You do not have to justify how you do things to anybody. And that is the great thing about being a business owner. I literally like, one thing that I do different, and it's funny because I tell florists this sometimes, and they're just like, whoa. My calendar for my Calendly does not have evening or weekend appointments. If somebody wants to meet with me, my available times are during the day. And in the last 2 years, I think I've had 2 evening appointments, and one was with a wedding planner that I love. So, like, literally, I just don't do them unless it is an extreme exception. And I explain to them, especially during the school year, my children are at school. I try to be a present mom when I'm when they get off the bus. And so I try to do all my appointments during the daytime. Like, that's fact. That's factual. I try to be present with my kids when they get home. During the summer, it's a different deal, but I still don't want to meet in the evening because then my husband's not working and I'd like to spend time together as a family. I have evening chores to do. It's not my jam. But if it's an exception and it's a really strong reason, then I will try to figure out, but I don't, and that is few and far between. All right, next. I no longer over explain my pricing because you guys, I used to defend my pricing before, and I do not need to write a dissertation to justify why flowers cost what they've cost. I just like to be warm, clear, confident without literally defending every number. And if I know I'm going into battle that I already know that we're over budget and this person was being unrealistic, I will have had those conversations probably during the consult or beforehand that I am worried about their, budget, that their budget is a little concerning based on the needs that they've, shared with me, etc. So that this is never a surprise conversation. I never want to have a surprise conversation about any of this. This is just like informing them why, because I do, of course, sometimes will go in when somebody acts shocked about when I explain pricing. Hey, I don't know if you know, but like tariffs have really affected flowers. Over 90% of flowers that are used in most weddings actually are imported. And so those imports range anywhere from 25 to 50, if not higher percentages, which obviously has really affected the price of flowers. And then they're usually like, "Oh, yeah." And if they voted for Trump, I'm like, "Woohoo." But most people are starting to get that tariffs are affecting a lot of things. And I know it's kind of not a new conversation now, so we forget about it. But these people might only have a frame of reference of 4 years ago when their sister got married and there was no tariffs enacted. Their only, experience maybe at Trader Joe's buying a few bouquets at Trader Joe's. So it's our job to educate people, but not to over explain and have to defend. And if somebody is like pushing me on like, why does it cost so much money to set up? Okay, if they're going to be a little pushy about something, especially if it happens in a consultation, I'll say, you know what? I totally get that that's a valid concern when you don't understand what goes into a number. Of course, it's totally makes sense to ask questions. And so part of those fees for me to do that, it basically covers we need to box every single thing up and every single thing up into boxes that I'm then transporting in my van that I'm paying, of course, insurance for, the cost of the van. I'm making sure that I have help to go and pack the van up and place all the paper so everything is really nicely protected from breakage. And then I also need to make sure that when I'm on site, I have adequate staffing to help get those flowers out in the time allotted. Make sure that everything is perfect, put all of those candles or any hard goods that are included, of course, out as well. And then make sure all those things are neatly tucked away, that all of our mess is cleaned up, and especially when we're doing installations on site, I often will need multiple people to assist with your wedding, and I make sure that all of my employees get living wages for the hard work that they're doing. Who is going to object to that? And if they're like, "Well, why does it cost so much when you come and tear down?" You know what? Another totally valid point. Tear downs are at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm basically having to pay someone to stay up super late past their bedtime, work really hard to pick up a bunch of things and clean up a bunch of mess in a very short window of time. And with all those variables, it requires uh, me to compensate that person accordingly. Plus, not only are we tearing all those things down, but we have to dispose of all those things, compost all those things, and take care of all of the mess that is left after the wedding. So when we tear down, part of our cost covers all of those different variables. So if they keep objecting, then they're not the right client. All right, next one. I no longer take on work that makes me miserable or feels ick. Have you ever read somebody's inquiry in your inbox and go, fuck, this person just doesn't feel good? Like the vibe of how they write even doesn't feel good. And you're just like, I don't want to do this because this person seems crazy. If you or you look at their Pinterest board and you're like, holy crap, the 90s early 80s, threw up, and they want purple dyed dendrobium orchids. Peacock feathers and dark purple calla lilies are making a reunion tour, and you have done your time when it comes to peacock feathers and blue dyed dendros and purple calla lilies. You're past that. You've grown past that. That doesn't mean that you need to do that wedding. If you're going to be like dreading it, something should be fun. Something is fun on every single wedding I do. It could be the colors are fun, the flower choices are fun, a part of it is fun, the venue is fun, the bride is super fun, the couple is super fun, whatever it is, but something should be fun. And if it's miserable, you shouldn't be doing it. I also never, or I no longer, I lets a client make me feel like them being indecisive is a reflection of me. So I no longer let client indecision become my problem. I can just put boundaries in place and share facts with them. Hey, your quote is good till blank. And then reach out to them 3 days, 7 days, say your quote's going to expire. I'm going to open the date. I've had the date held for you. If you've had inquiries on the date, whatever it is, those are things that you can just share and be factual. Them dragging their ass, like, not your problem. Does it feel crappy that they're doing it? Absolutely. But we need to make sure that we are holding our boundaries, that we're running a business and we're not running this coddling program. And we definitely aren't begging people to choose us by any means, because your work is worth it and you deserve to have clients that are super excited to work with you. Then, have you ever had a client that you were so worried that you over delivered and then you got salty about it? You were resentful because you just felt like you were going a million miles and this person was an epic piece of shit. And you're like, why am I doing this? Well, it's because you were worried about making them happy, worried about a million things, and you just thought you would keep throwing flowers at it, literally. Then you got mad about it because you start feeling like this client is affecting me, your bottom line is affected, and that just is not a way to operate your business. All right. Next thing, I no longer compare myself to business, other floral businesses. I no longer compare my business as a whole to other florists because, for one, it's never helpful. And for two, I'm not other florists. I'm a completely different person. I have completely different goals, standards, boundaries, aspirations than the other person. That other person might not have 2 children, might not have 6 mini cows to take care of, might not have a coaching business that they run, might not have a million other things that are on my plate that aren't on theirs. Or they might be like, you know what? I have a very small studio. I'm doing this part-time. That's also very hard to compare my business. Comparing never really helps you feel better in the end. So I make it a practice to just not do that. It is no longer beneficial for me to go, look at what that florist has. Look at how cool that is. And if I do feel that way, I usually just go and unfollow them because I don't want to be triggered. And that isn't helpful. All right. Next, I don't take jobs that only pay me in exposure, like influencer jobs, things like that. If I do a styled shoot, I have to really be super duper inspired. Otherwise, I need to be paid for it. I just, this exposure thing, like people saying, especially in the age of influencers, no, I'm just not doing that. That is not, likes do not make my bank account grow. And I feel like when I'm doing a styled shoot, at least I'm getting like work and pictures that I know that are gonna be good and support my overall business goals, but I'm not doing something for exposure. It just doesn't make sense to me. And inevitably, someday, if it makes sense to you now, it won't in the future because it's just not a long term play. All right, we'll do this as the last one. I no longer ignore what my body is telling me. If I am exhausted, if I am worn down, if I need to sleep, whatever, I'm taking clues and I will get extra help. I will get extra help. I will get extra support. I will not run myself ragged. If I am hurt for whatever reason, I'm not going to do something to keep injuring myself. Respecting your body and your mind are your biggest tools. And so you need to make sure that those tools are sharpened, are well taken care of, are well oiled, aren't left out on the rain to make them all rusty, because that's all you got. And once you've used that up and it's shot, it's really hard to bounce back. So you need to listen to your body. You need to wear the right shoes when you're going to a setup. You need to make sure that you're just drinking water and taking care of yourself, because without that, you will not be a florist as long as you would like, because you're going to be worn down. So, I hope these don'ts in your floral business were helpful to you. Please follow along on Instagram, where I also talk about different tips and strategies. It's at the Floral CEO on Instagram. I'd love for you to follow along and then say hi and introduce yourself, because I love to hear about who is following along and support you in your journey, because it makes me so happy when I see others' success as well. So, thank you so much for listening, flower friend, and you have an amazing flower filled day.